Hi there. In this video, we're going to start off with a table that has monthly sales for an entire fiscal year. What we want to know is we don't just want to know what the sales number is. We want to know what percentage that is for the entire year. So to do that, we're going to reference a previous step in sort of a different way. More specifically, we're going to be referencing an element from a previous step. So let's go ahead and get started. We're here in referencing previous steps.xlsx. We're in the percent of total sheet. Here's the data we want to work with. So let's head up to Power Query and click on Get Data from Table. So whether you know it or not, we've been referencing previous steps the entire time here, and I think I mentioned it several times. So for each one of these steps, like here, this is the second step, the change type step. What it does is it goes and grabs the source step and does a bunch of stuff to it. It changes the types of each one of these columns. So whenever we do anything, let me just add a sort of a trivial column here. We're going to add a custom column that just has, I don't know, the number 1 in it, okay? So what this step does is it takes the table from this step and adds a custom column to it, which has the definition of 1. So every single one of these steps always refers to the step before it, except usually the first step, which goes and grabs some external data. So in a way, we've been referring to previous steps the entire time, but up to this point, we've basically just been grabbing the entire table and doing something to it, and that's the result. And what we want to do is we want to grab just a part of the previous step. Okay, so here, that's sort of the big overview. What we've got here is the data we're working with, and in order to figure out what the percentage is for each month, what we need is a grand total, right? So if we had the grand total of total sales for the entire year, we could just divide each monthly total sales by the yearly total sales, and we'd get our percentage. So to do that, I mean, in English, we're going to have to figure out a way to calculate this entire column right here. So what we can do is we could add a custom column. I did that a little quick. We're going to head up here to Add Custom and Add Custom Column. So we're going to add a new column that is the grand total sales, right? So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to call this grand total sales. So normally, when we add these custom columns, we could have literals like 1 plus 2 and things like that, or we can also we could double click on any of these available columns and reference the individual values from somewhere else in this table. Like we can, for each one of these rows, it'll be let me just do this, total sales times 2. So if we think about the way this works, when I click OK, for each one of these rows, it takes the value for that row in the total sales column and multiplies it by 2. So that's a way we could refer to each row's total sales. But what if we want the entire total sales, right? Because that's what we want to do. We want to take all of these total sales and add them all up to get our grand total. Well, we can't do it like that, but what we can do is refer to a previous step and then grab elements from it. So let's start by grabbing the entire previous steps table. So what we're going to do is, for every element in this column, we're actually going to have this change type table. So to do that, we're going to simply refer to it. So if you remember, because this has got a space in it, it has to start with this hashtag, and it's got these little quotation marks. It's got the name of the previous step and a close of quotation marks. So this isn't the grand total sales yet. We're just building this thing up piece by piece. I'm going to click OK. And so now if you'll notice, for every element in this column, what we've got is basically this table, right? So in this table, each one of these little elements has this entire portion in it, right? So this little mini table has both the month and the total sales. Well, we don't want both of those things. All we want is the total sales. And specifically, we want to add it up. But let's go step by step. We'll add it up in a second. For right now, let's just grab the total sales part. So let's head back over here to the little gear icon. We're going to change the step. So rather than just grabbing the previous table, we're going to grab just one column from the previous table. We're going to grab the total sales column, like that. And this is going to return a list. So now we're going to get a list rather than a table, and that list is going to be all the total sales from this changed type step. So now that we've got that, notice that this is equal to this. Now all we have to do is take the sum of this list. Well, that's pretty easy to do. Head back over here to the gear icon. Click over here. We're going to do a list.sum because we're summing up a list. And that's it. So this portion right here is going to grab the change type step. So I should say this part right here is going to grab the change type step. This part is going to extract the total sales column from the change type step into a list. And this part, including this part, is going to take that list and add it all up. And that's going to give us the grand total sales. So, okay, so I'm going to click OK. And so now we've got, for every single row, we've got the grand total of this column right here. Perfect. That's all the hard stuff. So now all we need to do is divide this by this, and we'll get our percentage. So let's add another custom column. And in this custom column, we're going to call this percent of total, or let's call it percent of grand total sales. Everybody likes saying grand. It's a fun word to say. So now all we have to do is take the total sales column, divide it by the grand total sales, and click OK. And there we go. Now for each individual row, we've got the percentage of that month's total. Okay, so that's it. I hope this wasn't too complicated. It's a little hard to wrap your head around at first, but as you sort of I would just recommend practicing it, because as you go through it, you'll find that if you just do it a couple times, it'll start to make a lot more sense to you. So this is a pretty good example of how you can refer to a previous step, but not just the entire table, but certain elements of it to make a more complicated, or to produce a more complicated calculation. Okay, well, we're going to look through some more examples here. Hopefully that'll cement the idea a little bit better for you. I do hope that was helpful, and I will see you next video.